Welcome back, everybody, to Wonder Dudes in Gamesoft World, the world where everything is made of Gamesoft, and the toilets are the sports games. Today we're going to be talking about Wario Land and Virtual Boy Wario Land. We got 3 people here today, including myself, with a combined gaming knowledge that spans nearly a century. I'll be your host today. My name is Mauricio, also known as MZO Mizzo online. To my left, we have Finch, also known as Finchikins the Owl. Say hi, Finch.
I'm Finchikins the Owl!
That's not his real voice. He will sound different when he talks.
No, it's me! Greed is good!
To my right, we have Nick, also known as Geen online. Say hello, Nick. Okay, come on. That's not how you sound either. They will have normal voices for the duration of the podcast, I assure you. Alright, so we're going to do a brief introduction before we get started on the Wario Land games, and I'm going to tell you guys a story, so get close, huddle around, sit on my lap. I'm patting it.
Boy!
Papa Miz is going to tell you a story about early Nintendo. When they first started making video games, President Nintendo, Hiroshi Yamauchi, he set up the company to have 3 different research and development teams producing software and hardware, and he had them in sort of competition with each other. Now, R&D 1 was headed up by their star designer at the time, Gunpei Yokoi, who had designed toys for them in the past, and he was also in charge of the Game & Watch series, some of the arcade games. It was a big shot at Nintendo at the time. So everything was going great for R&D 1 until they made a game called Radar Scope, which was, I believe it was a Space Invaders clone, correct?
Yeah.
Of sorts, just like every other video game during that, around that time. And it didn't do so badly in Japan, did pretty good in Japan, but when they brought it over to the US, it tested abysmally. Nobody wanted to buy the game, nobody wanted to play the game. You've all probably heard the story before. They had a giant warehouse full of Radar Scope, and Yamauchi told Gunpei Yokoi to take this new artist who had just joined Nintendo, Shigeru Miyamoto, and together make a game that could be made from the same parts that were already in Radar Scope, to replace the board and make a new arcade game for sale in the US. That game ended up being Donkey Kong. And we know how successful that game was. Afterwards, Miyamoto and Yokoi would collaborate again for Mario Brothers, and Miyamoto would then get his own team, his own research and development team at Nintendo, R&D 4, which eventually will become Nintendo EAD, that we all know for making the Mario games, the Zelda games, and so on. Now the point here is that R&D 1 used to be the superstars of Nintendo, and then Miyamoto kind of started taking over with R&D 4. He started getting better funding, he started getting more attention, and R&D 1 was kind of left by the wayside. When R&D 4 was developing Super Nintendo games, R&D 1 was left to work on the Game Boy. And not just work on the Game Boy, but make sequels to Miyamoto's own games on the Game Boy. Continue the Mario Land series on the Game Boy. And I don't think they were happy about that. I believe R&D 1 was mainly responsible for the Game Boy itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, R&D 1 was the one that developed the hardware as well of the Game Boy.
Yeah, all of the R&Ds were in charge of software and hardware development. They kind of got to play around with whatever they found interesting.
Right. I mean, it was structured so that all of these different studios were basically competing with each other to try and outdo each other.
Right.
And R&D 1 developed the Game Boy and then was pretty much shackled to it to go ahead and start developing software for it.
Now, it wouldn't have been so bad if they got to make their own software for it, but instead they had to continue the very, very popular Super Mario Brothers line on the Game Boy. And the first game maybe didn't mind so much. Mario Land, excellent game, we talked about it last week. By Mario Land 2, they were unhappy about the whole situation.
Yeah, and I think definitely with Mario 2, you could see it in the game itself.
No, the game suffered.
They're just going through the paces. They're making a Mario game because they have to make a Mario game.
Yeah, but out of that resentment and possible anger, this is just a story. We don't really know what they were feeling at the time. But out of that resentment and anger was born a character that was a caricature of Mario. It was the antithesis to Mario that not only represented an evil side of what they pictured as Mario, but also EAD and possibly Miyamoto himself, which was Wario. Fantastic character, just mocking the entirety of Mario. And after Mario Land 2, R&D 1 was allowed to create their own sequels to their own games. We saw a Kid Icarus sequel on the Game Boy. We saw Metroid 2, of course, a Balloon Kid. And eventually they were called upon to make another Mario game again, and this time they didn't. This time they made a new game starring their own character. So Super Mario Land 3 is actually Wario Land. And that's the game we're going to talk about here today.
Right. Like, Wario was basically their ticket to make, quote-unquote, a Mario game, but have it really be their game instead.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. It's a very good idea to kind of claim ownership over a series that they really didn't enjoy working on at all. So Super Mario Land 3 was a Mario Land game on their own terms, and it came out in 1994. This is the first game starring Wario on the Game Boy, and the game kind of has new rules set up. It doesn't really play like the Mario you're used to. So Nick, what did you think coming from Mario Land to Wario Land?
Well, there's definitely a difference. Where Mario is a bit faster of a game, you can actually run. Wario kind of moves at a slower pace. He's a bit more daunting as a character. So he kind of slowly moves through the level. He doesn't really take damage.
That's Wario's thing before there was a Wario.
So enemies can't hurt Wario unless they're pointy. If they have a
that's
spike,
completely different from Mario, where anything that touches Mario causes damage. But that's different in Wario Land.
Right. So, I mean, even small Wario, I mean, you still have the whole, growing to a bigger size and getting power-ups like you do in Mario Brothers. But in Wario, if that enemy doesn't have a spear or spike on his back or something, you can just bump into it, and it's going to almost attack them or at least shove them away.
Right.
And that kind of becomes a cornerstone of the gameplay of Wario.
Finch, did you have any kind of jarring experience going from Mario Land straight to Wario Land?
I mean, a little bit. Not really, just because I played the game before.
I like to call it Wario Shock.
Wario Shock.
Yua Shock. Right?
I was gonna say, it takes a lot of the things that were problems in Super Mario Land 2 and kind of brings it around. Like, like Geen was saying, Wario moves really slowly. Just like Mario moved kind of slowly in Mario Land 2, but he doesn't feel sluggish. It just feels like this is what Wario does.
Yeah.
He's just a big guy that kind of, walks around. Unless he has the jet hat.
I think one of the best things is when you're just standing there and a small enemy walks into you and they just get bumps away from your giant belly. That's great.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like nothing ever feels like it's in your way because you can just charge through it.
Yeah, so very different kind of feel to the game in general. Different rules apply here. So coming into a Wario game, you will always make the comparison of a Mario game to a Wario game, especially when you play the first one. But they are very different. Wario can crawl at any time.
Yeah, and you just walk into stuff, and if there's like a space he can crawl under, he'll just duck and crawl under it. You don't have to press down in whatever direction you're facing.
His power-ups are sort of hat-based. At the very beginning, he takes off his Wario cap and puts on a hard hat that just happens to be lying around the save screen. And
that's right.
Remember? Yeah, like he dashes in. He dashes in.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he bumps off his Wario hat. Right. He picks up a hard hat, and now his main attack is a shoulder bash, which he didn't have in Mario Land 2. So that's new. He has a shoulder bash, which will knock enemies away and give you a coin in return. Like you said, regular bumping will handle most enemies. They'll usually end up upside down, where you can pick them up and throw them at other enemies, which will then get rid of both at the same time. He's got a butt stomp, which is pretty new.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't attacking as when he was a boss in Mario 2.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
He mainly did try to butt stomp me in that game, so... Was that new to the Mario series in general?
It was new to the Mario series, because Wario had a butt slam before Yoshi did.
Oh.
And before Mario
that's
did.
Right. EAD will shamelessly rip them off for Yoshi's Island, as well as Mario 64 and many other things where Mario gets a butt slam.
Wario, well, you think Wario, being the businessman, would have copyrighted that or trademarked it or something?
2 coins a butt slam.
He hates himself now.
Can't believe those assholes ripped me off.
But yeah, like the main power-ups are all hat-based. Your basic form is Hard Hat Wario, which can shoulder bash for a limited range. And I believe picking up a garlic, instead of mushroom, you get garlic as a power-up, right?
That's it.
So the garlic power-up will take you from Hard Hat Wario to Bull Wario, where you have horns. You will shoulder bash for a longer period of time when you press the button.
Right. And then you can also stick the roofs and stick to conveyor belts.
Yeah, see, that's really interesting, right? You can jump, and if you hold up when you hit the ceiling with those horns, you'll actually stick to that ceiling. And it does come into play a few times, like you said, with conveyor belts, which is really interesting. Really
it's a fun
nice
little mechanic. It doesn't really happen all that often, but it's fun when it does. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I felt like it was kind of underused in the game. because it was a really cool mechanic. Yeah,
I found that it gives you more horizontal range. So there's a few jumps. There was one jump in particular where you're kind of falling off of a moving. What would you call these things? They're in every game ever made. They're Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. A minecart. You're on a minecart.
Oh, minecart.
I couldn't remember. I'm having a stroke. Like you're on a minecart, right? And it's a minecart, and it's falling off, and you have to jump off of it and get to a small area to find the secret location. And I found that the jump is a little difficult to make. You can make it; it's not that hard. But if you kind of flub it and jump a little bit too early, if you stick to the ceiling and then let go, he will travel a bit longer horizontally than you would if you had just jumped and bumped your head. So it's kind of interesting, kind of a neat mechanic.
Yeah.
And you might discover it because holding up actually modifies Wario's jump in this game, where a standard jump will only go so high, but if you hold up and then jump, he does a super jump, which goes up a bit higher. I believe like another half Wario length higher.
Yeah. That's one thing that we should maybe touch on, too, is that Wario kind of has a weird jumping physics to him.
Yeah, I brought this up to Nick earlier. I did want to mention that usually when you jump in a video game, there's like a very quick initial jump. Like you very quickly leave the ground and take off. Maybe you kind of hang a little bit at the top of your jump and then you come down at whatever kind of rate. But in Wario, it's all very constant. So when you hold down the jump button, it almost feels like he's levitating off the ground.
Yeah.
At like a very constant speed. And he comes back down. So I would say that's almost a fault in the game. Like I don't like the way that feels.
It feels a little bit cheap, like they didn't initially know what they were doing.
Yeah, like it's kind of weird though because they've made games where you jump before. It's not like you don't jump in any of their games. It's just very odd that there isn't that initial oomph to the jump. It kind of feels like you hold on the button and Wario's just kind of slowly lifting himself off the ground. And I ended up getting hit by enemies quite a bit at the start because I wasn't used to that kind of timing.
Yeah, but once you get used to it, though, the way the game's set up, it's much more about exploration and about exploring these levels than any Mario game has been.
Yeah.
So it's more of a puzzle element, really, like to go ahead and know, okay, well, I know I can jump exactly this high and kind of figure out, like, okay, well, maybe I can jump up there to look for, a hidden door or treasure or whatever else. I don't know, it didn't bother me.
Well, no run kind of bothers me a little bit. When you're initially exploring a stage, it's not a big deal, but if you miss something and you're going back and you're kind of going from room to room looking for the one secret you know is there but you keep missing, not being able to run through some of it really kind of bothers me.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, he was pretty slow. At least before he gets that jet head.
Right, yeah, so the hat power-ups, we stopped talking to the bull, which is the standard progression, I believe. Small Wario to hard hat Wario to bullhead Wario. But there's also alternate hats, like the jet hat, which lets him fly in a straight line in the air for a good distance, right?
Yeah.
The third type of hat in Wario Land is the dragon hat, which is kind of another odd power-up. When you press the button, the hat will rev up and slowly start breathing fire and then breathe a steady stream of fire that will then slowly die out for a limited amount of time. So you don't have that much control over it. You kind of have to wait for the startup period and then you have the fire while it's going on, but then it kind of revs down and you have to wait for it to go away before you can start it up again. So it's a little inconvenient in a way. How'd you guys feel about the dragon hat?
Yeah.
That's it. We're done. The dragon hat. Perfect.
Dragon hat wasn't great. I think the jet hat was cooler.
Jet hat was way cooler.
Yeah, 'cause that was another thing. Not only did he fly farther, but he actually ran instead of just kind of crawled around.
Yeah, it gave him the speed that he was missing without it, I believe. You're right.
And on top of that, too, when you charge an enemy, you get a coin.
Yes.
And in this game, you want to get as many coins as you can.
Right.
And so when you have the dragon hat, you don't get coins from enemies. So it's a negative against using the dragon hat as well.
Right. But you do get hearts, right?
You get hearts, yeah.
So we didn't talk about hearts. That's another difference. There are coins in Wario Land, but the coins have an ultimate purpose in the end. You want to collect as many coins as possible. That didn't really change.
Yeah.
But now you have hearts that are a separate type of currency. You earn hearts by killing enemies, and you find them in blocks. And the hearts are what counts over to extra lives every 100.
Yeah.
Right.
So a little different. Are there any 1-up mushrooms, or not mushrooms, but any 1-up symbols in this game that will just give you a 1-up?
There's giant hearts that give you 3 lives.
You have so many lives that I really didn't pay attention to the whole life thing.
Yeah, I mean, killing enemies gives you hearts. You find hearts everywhere, and yeah, you're gonna rack up lives just like you do in Mario Land 2.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's that boss in that optional iceberg stage. It just gives you a bunch of 1-up hearts.
Right.
So if you're suffering and you get to that part, you'll just be given so many that you won't even need to worry about it anymore.
Doesn't he give you like 3-up parts or something?
I think so.
He gives you like 3-ups.
Yeah.
So that's like 9 lives just by killing this boss. And I believe you can come back to him too and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Although I didn't really bother. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because before that I was like, I might run out of lives and lose my treasure. But after that, I had no problems whatsoever.
Right, so that's a good segue into another aspect of this game that's not included in any Mario game before it, where there are hidden treasures in some of these levels. And the way to find the treasure is to find the key. Well, first you have to find the lock, and then you have to find the key to put into the lock. And both of those things might be hidden. One of them might be out in the open, the other one's hidden. They might both be hidden, they might both be easy to find. It depends on the level. But once you get the key, undo the lock, you'll go into a room where you get a treasure that gets put into your main treasure screen. And if you game over, right? Or is it game over completely, like lose all your lives?
Yeah, if you lose all your lives, one gets taken away from you.
Right. And can you get it back again, or is it gone forever?
No, you can get it back. It just goes back to wherever it came from.
Because this has never happened to me because I'm not terrible.
Yeah, you just
So
you have to
really
go back and find
know.
it.
Okay.
It takes away all of them, doesn't it?
No, it
Is
just
it
takes
all of
away
them?
one.
I think it's just one every game
Okay.
over.
Yeah,
And then,
like you said,
and then
I
if
never
you
got
lose
game.
all of, if you lose all of your treasures and you get a game over, it takes away coins.
Oh,
So yeah, there's an incentive
never did that.
not to suck.
Wow. Just like a number of coins or all your coins?
I think it takes away like half your coins.
oh.
Okay, wow. Harsh.
What happens when? Let's find out what happens when you lose everything.
Wario's lost everything.
He turns to alcohol.
It takes his clothes. He's just in a barrel. Rolling around the level.
You get the secret barrel power up.
Now, the point of all these treasures and all these coins is that when you beat the game, there are multiple endings depending on how much wealth you have accumulated. I don't want to spoil too much. I mean, massive Wario Land spoilers here. But at the end...
It's only 21 years old, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone should play it. It's an excellent game. But at the very end, you trade your coins for... the whole point is that Mario took his castle back. So you want your own Wario castle to make Mario jealous after the events of Mario Land 2. So you trade in all of this money you've accumulated. The treasures get turned into coins. And then the coins you collect get added to that total, and you give them to this character at the end of the game. I don't want to spoil it, not like it matters. And then he will provide you with a domicile. Like you either have, I believe, at the worst, you get like a birdhouse,
Yeah.
and you try to hang your Wario token, like the big Mario coin. You try to hang your Wario coin, and it falls off, and it makes like a sad noise, like boing, and Wario looks really sad.
He makes an awful face.
Yeah, it's a really awful face. You don't want to look at Wario when he's sad. That's very true. Then a little bit more money, you get a tree with like a hole in it that you can live in. Again, you can't hang a coin from there. Then you get like a log cabin, right?
And I think he's
see a lot
okay
of
with
these.
that one. He's not happy about it, but
Yeah, I don't think he's happy about it, but he's also not incredibly depressed. He's just like, whatever, things could be worse.
Get a house, it's fine.
Then you get like one of those, it's like a pagoda, like a feudal lord in Japan,
Oh.
you know, like one of those things with the big walls around it.
That's the one I got.
Okay, you can definitely hang a Wario coin from that. So he's kind of happy about that.
Yeah, he was giving me the thumbs up the whole time.
And then
You did good, so did I.
and then the canonical ending to Wario Land is, I believe, where he gets his castle, which is I don't think that was that hard to do. I think you need a certain number of coins, but the treasures provide most of that wealth.
yeah.
You really don't need to up it too much by coins to get the castle. So if you found all the treasures, I think you're pretty lined up to get that castle.
Yeah.
Finch, did you get all the treasures when you
Yeah,
played?
what did you do, Finch?
I
How did you mess this up?
I'd miss 2 to get to Pagoda.
Hmm.
So that's
Okay.
probably
Finch.
it. If you get all the treasures, you get the castle. I went back and got them.
Oh, okay, so you beat the game, and then you went back to get what you missed.
Yeah.
Alright, that makes sense. But yeah, if you get all the treasures, then you're pretty much set up for the castle. And the castle looks similar to the castle in Mario Land 2. It's got a big W coin he hangs on it. Super happy. And then if you manage to get every treasure, play through every stage, and get a grand total of 99,999 coins, which I think the treasures get you to like 90,000. So you're
Yeah.
almost there. It's really not a lot. You'll end up with Planet Wario. You get a whole planet just for Wario. So this cannot be the canonical ending because Wario cannot have a planet.
Why not?
Sure, you can.
It's too wild. No, it can't happen.
Yeah. Doesn't Wario Land 2 continue off from the castle ending?
Yeah,
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah, so Wario Land 2, you find yourself in a castle. So
Wario.
It might be a castle on Planet Wario. Did you ever think about that, Finch?
That's true. What about Wario Land if?
Does he have a high school that goes to hell?
Yeah, he goes to high school in hell. Then you get Wario Land Persona.
Oh my god. That's Master of Disguise.
Yeah.
We won't be talking about that today.
Or ever.
I
guess we could talk about it. Just not today.
So we did touch on the controls and the feel. Overall, it feels good. Like I said, it's a little floaty. It's a little... the jumps don't feel particularly great. I think that was the biggest change coming into this game for me. But I do like the exploration. I do like finding treasure. I have issue with a couple of treasures that I'm going to bring up right here. I know you guys didn't, and you made fun of me for it.
Yeah, all the time.
Some were kind of tricky.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I say there's a couple that really got to me. The rest I found fairly organically. I don't think I had an issue. But there was one where the door was just completely invisible, and you had to press up to go into an invisible door that wasn't... There was no sign that the door was there.
There was a
sign.
sign.
You guys say. No, there was no sign.
Yeah, it was
whatsoever.
Finch and I had no problem with this treasure.
Well,
we
I got it eventually.
There's obviously something there.
I mean, I got it eventually, but I didn't really see... I was like, okay, there's got to be a hidden door. So I found it, but it was just a little odd. And then there was one where you had to kind of walk through a wall into like a dark area that was kind of the background-ish. You know what I mean? Like you kind of walked out of the level.
That one was kind of cool.
The keyhole. That was pretty cool.
Because that was like, oh, I wonder if it does this. And you're like, holy crap, it does. Because it just seemed like, you're like, oh, maybe they messed up here, and maybe they messed something up. But then you walk over, and it's done on purpose. And it's really
maybe
cool.
They forgot to build this wall here.
Right.
To put a block in.
But also, too, there's an enemy that's kind of wandering around in front of that wall as well.
See, I didn't even see that because I murder everything on sight.
Yeah. Wait, wasn't there... There's another one you have to jump into the ceiling, isn't there? Or is that something else? I just remember there's like a block you jump over the ceiling, and you're kind of walking around on top of the ceiling.
Maybe. I do remember one where there was an arrow of coins pointing up, and you had to ram the wall as Jet Wario, and the bounce back from hitting the wall would knock you up into a platform that you couldn't see above the edge of the screen.
Yeah, it kind of lands on it, and then the screen scrolls up.
Yeah.
I think that was an alternate exit to one of the levels. That was really cool. I really like that one. So overall, how do you guys feel about this game?
I love Wario Land. That's probably my favorite original Game Boy game. If not my favorite, it's definitely up there. That's like the top 5.
High praise. Okay.
Absolutely.
Finch?
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, I played it through. This was the first time I played it through. I did not get the game when it came out. The only time I played it then was like in a Toys R Us at their little demo units.
I think you're the reason Gunpei Yokoi is dead.
No! I thought it was a really cool game. And I mean, coming back to it, what was it, 21 years later? That's like, I don't know, that's pretty good for the game itself.
I had literally I bought this game when it came out and I beat it, but I had not played it in the meantime, and I had no memories of this game coming in. So it was coming in fresh, no nostalgia, nothing like that. And I found it to be a very entertaining game. Lots of fun. Yeah. Nice contrast to Mario Land 2, which I did not find to be that entertaining a game.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, it feels really different from Mario Land 2. I mean, it feels really different from any Mario game, even though it has some of the same elements. There's a certain feel to it where you actually feel like you're going on this exploration journey, or I guess that's not right. You're going on a treasure hunt, like, I don't know, kind of like Indiana Jones or something, except you're Wario.
Well, so you're Indiana Jones in the second movie where he's greedy.
Yeah.
Not Indiana Jones in the third movie where things belong in a museum, because he keeps changing. All right. And luckily, they like the formula so much that they will completely change it for Wario Land 2.
Yeah.
On the Game Boy. But before that happens, we get one more sweet, sweet Wario game. The very next Wario Land game was actually a Virtual Boy game. I don't know how many people out there own a Virtual Boy or have played a Virtual Boy, but it is excellent. And I would recommend the Virtual Boy to everyone.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Virtual Boy for a moment, which it seems that a lot of people just have no idea what the hell it even is.
You think so?
Well, I think enough.
Well, Nintendo erased it from their history for a few years there. There was a span of time where it wasn't even included in their list of hardware on their website. That's it was just didn't exist. They completely wrote it out of existence. But now they've kind of accepted it in a joking manner, I think, most of the time. But the last Nintendo Direct had Reggie playing it, and he commented on how great the games were for him, which I completely agree with.
Yeah.
So the story of the Virtual Boy, a lot of stories today, but the story of the Virtual Boy, again, leads us back to our favorite person of Nintendo, Gunpei Yokoi. And while R&D 3 were putting the finishing touches on the N64, R&D 1 got to mess around with their own hardware. And Gunpei Yokoi did not want to make 3D games, as in polygon games. So his next system had to be, he wanted it to be 2D, he wanted it to be something special, something different. So he ended up making the Virtual Boy, which I think is very closely related. We can make comparisons easily to the modern 3DS. It was kind of hard to describe to people how these games looked in the past, but everyone has 3DSs now. So you know the kind of diorama look to 2D games that the 3DS provides. The Virtual Boy did something very similar, except it was completely red and black.
Yeah, I think it was like 4 shades of red and pitch black. So
I think it was like 4 shades at a time, but you had a smorgasbord of shades to pick from. You can only display 4. There were endless amounts of red.
32,000 shades of red.
But the Virtual Boy is actually really innovative hardware. It wasn't like any other device out there. It used. Have you ever been to Disney World and they have those sticks with lights on them? And then you kind of wave the stick really fast in the air, and then you see like the words "hello" floating there. You know what I'm talking about? Because those lights are just blinking in different patterns, and they're in sync with how fast you're waving the stick, and your brain is telling you it says hello, but really it's just a line of blinking lights moving very quickly in front of your eyes. The Virtual Boy is very similar to that. It's got 2 1 by 224 red LED arrays, which are great. They're just sticks with lights on them. And there's a mirror that reflects those lights into your eyeball, but the mirror vibrates at such a speed that you think it's painting a full picture in front of you. 1 for each eye. Having 1 for each eye lets you fake depth. In this game, it works with parallax 3D, where there's just lots of layers of depth. So the illusion works really, really well. It's a painful system. It will hurt your eyes.
Well, this is I think the first time I ever saw a system give you an option to force yourself into a break.
Yes,
from
every
playing.
every game at the software level was required to have an automatic pause function.
Right.
So it will tell you, please get your head out of me.
So
Walk outside, look out into the distance, relax a little bit.
Get your face out of the stinky visor.
So the Virtual Boy we should also mention, it's a visor. It's like the front end of a helmet.
Right. The Virtual Boy part comes from it looking like a virtual reality headset. It's not virtual reality at all.
Yes,
but
it is.
It's not, you know?
It's real.
Whatever, Finch. But it's not virtual reality. Alright? It's still a flat 2D image. It just has parallax layers to it, much like the 3DS does. So R&D 1 supported their Virtual Boy with a unique and original Wario game, which it could technically be the sequel to the Game Boy Wario.
It's a sequel.
It's a sequel. It's also called Wario Land.
Oh, Virtual Boy Wario Land.
Right, but I mean, it doesn't say that on the box. It just says Wario Land.
It's a VB Wario Land.
Are you serious?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Does it?
I thought it was just Wario Land, because I was always very confused by it.
Oh, it does. On the box it says Virtual Boy Wario Land.
Yeah.
Awesome.
When Japan had this subtitle,
right.
Awazan no Hiro.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's not the name of the system on the box. It's Virtual Boy Wario Land Virtual Boy is what it says on the box. So, yeah. It's Virtual Boy Wario Land.
That's the full title.
Yeah.
Virtual Boy Wario Land, Virtual Boy.
So I do want to talk about how cool the parallax effect is. We've all played the 3DS. We can see how things are layered. But in the intro to Wario Land, there are so many layers to that intro. When you're seeing the image on a Virtual Boy, you have Wario sleeping on the banks of the Awazan on some sort of lawn chair. So, like, in front of him, there's foliage. There's, like, a couple of bushes. And then there's Wario. And then behind them, there's the river with, like, little fake water-looking thing. You know what I mean? Like how you draw water as, like, little spikes or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Little swirly lines that depict water.
Like ripples in the water, right?
Like ripples in the water, yeah. And then, like, behind those ripples, there's a seaplane kind of bobbing up and down. To the right of the seaplane, there's a beaver. That's going to be... I think he spits water at Wario, wake him up. And then, like, behind that, there's some more water ripples. Then there's some sunlight that's coming in from the treetops. Then there's the treetops with the tree trunks. And then behind that, there's, like, a platform where you see 3 little guys marching with treasures on their head. And there are just so many layers to this image when you're looking at it. It's really impressive. I remember being blown away by this back when I played this game.
Yeah, did you get this when the Virtual Boy came out?
Yeah, well, I didn't. It bombed. It took about a year. It was about on market for a year. I bought it when it was $50.
Oh.
So this must have been the year after its release.
Okay. Yeah,
but it was still like 95 or so. I was in high school.
Because Wario Land wasn't a launch title.
No.
Because I know I rented the Virtual Boy when it first came out, and Wario Land wasn't out at that time. But when I bought a Virtual Boy, I think I bought one for like $20 at Target. Wario Land.
God.
I know, it's so sad.
Oh my gosh.
But Wario Land, I picked up for $10 at Toys R Us, and I played the hell out of it.
So am I the only one who got one of these things when it was actually like full price on the market?
Probably. Ever.
Oh.
I'm going to say yes.
You guys are the reason that, what was it, Bound High, and and what was the other one? Oh, I talk about it all the time.
I don't buy anything at release. I'm never the
man.
reason why things survive.
Yeah, my dad got Virtual Boy for me and my brother for Christmas, and we were so excited.
Your eyes were bleeding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the screen is a virtual illusion. Like, a lot of people make jokes about headaches and all that kind of eye strain, but it's very true. It's basically you're staring at an optical illusion for a really... like, I like doing Magic Eye puzzles. I don't want to play a Magic Eye puzzle for an hour or two.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you feel good.
Well, when you start it up, it has that thing, and you can adjust it. And if you adjust it, it gives you like a little bit less eye strain than normal. But of course, most people didn't even know that. They're like, "Oh, what's these little squares?"
Yeah, you can change the orientation of the mirrors a little bit and their distance to kind of focus depending on how weird your head is, and it does help. But there's always going to be eye strain. You have this weird optical illusion centimeters away from your eyeballs in complete utter darkness, and it's red. Like it's never going to be the optimal way of playing a video game.
Yeah.
But it does look fantastic, though.
Yeah, it looks amazing. The beginning to Wario Land was like one of the craziest things ever.
Right, it's a 32-bit system, and you got to keep in mind it's doing two things at once. It's displaying two, it's processing and displaying two images. It's doing double what it should be doing.
Yeah,
and it's running silky smooth, and it looks beautiful. Like these 32-bit sprites are so detailed, and it looks so nice. It's such a nice game.
Yeah. That's one of the things about both Wario Lands, though. They both had like these huge sprites on screen, and the characters look really good. They look like cartoon characters.
Yeah. It's kind of a quantum leap going from the Game Boy to the Virtual Boy, though, in terms of resolution and quality. Oh, it looks ridiculously good for what it is. It's still red and black.
Yeah, it's still burning your eyes out.
And like the Wario sprite, like his arm is closer to you than his body, and they're all moving in conjunction with each other. Like it's very impressive.
He has like a breathing animation that's going on most of the time. And,
and
he looks alive. He looks like a living character in that game.
Yeah, he's real.
Wario's real.
It's virtual reality.
I can feel him breathing down my neck. It's so great.
Yeah, you can feel him standing behind you, breathing on you heavily. And it really smells bad. It's not the visor, it's Wario's breath.
It makes so much sense now. Yeah, so there were a few gameplay changes. This is technically a very similar game to the Game Boy game, but there were a few tweaks to the formula. It's still big, bulky Wario bumping things away, and you're still picking them up and throwing them. You still have the butt stomp. You have all that stuff. The jump has been fixed. The jump feels fantastic in this game. So the weird hover jump from Wario Land is gone. What else do we have here?
There's a run button.
There's a run button.
Yeah, he runs.
Yeah. One change I did not like was that in Wario Land, when you shoulder bashed off of a platform, you would keep going in the air. You know what I mean? For the same duration of the shoulder bash.
Yeah.
But in this game, you fall down immediately. Like, it doesn't...
Gravity works.
Yeah. You can't, like, Wile E. Coyote off a ledge and keep going. Like, you actually fall down. So I don't know why they made that change, but it's really not a big deal.
But you know what, though? I don't even remember that being an issue, because...
No. The level design is different to make up for it.
Like, there's never a point where you want to dash in the air like you do in the original one.
Yeah, and with the run back, you can actually run between single gaps once more, as is traditional in most Mario games.
Right.
So that's pretty neat. His crawl is different. Before, he would just kind of... I think his legs would kind of disappear, and it would just be his arms on the ground, right? And he's looking at the screen in the original Wario Land, and now he's got, like... He's crawling sideways with his butt in the air.
Yeah, he's got a lot of junk in the trunk.
Does it make a noise? I'm trying to remember. Does it make like a little tick-a-tick kind of noise?
I think so, yeah.
Kind of noise,
I expected no less from Wario Land. Excellent.
It's so good.
And he doesn't flip. His sprite doesn't flip, so he crawls to the right, and then if you have to back up, he just backs it up. You know, like he doesn't flip and go the other direction.
Yeah, that was the thing I noticed, him backing it up.
He
Paid very
backs
close
this thing up.
attention.
Yeah, very nice touches to this game. Lots of small details make the game just feel fantastic and look fantastic.
It's not nearly as long as the first game.
Nowhere near.
Like, it's kind of a short game, but it feels a lot more solid. It feels a lot more like a game they put a lot of real time and effort into just to make it a really nice game.
They put a lot of love into the game, and it definitely shows. There's only 10 playable levels and 3 bosses.
Well, 4 bosses.
I believe... Huh?
4 bosses.
Well, 4 bosses. No, are you sure?
With the final boss, yeah.
4 bosses with the final boss. A couple mini bosses here and there, nothing too big. Those weird... Yeah, what are those mini bosses? Like, what are those door guardian things?
You know what? I have a theory that they just look like it to me, so I'm sure they're not. But
oh boy, here we go.
They look like Mario's face. Because they have like the round nose, they have the big eyebrows,
like a little robot Mario.
Like it's like a little robotic Mario face. Yeah.
Okay.
Mario trying to block Wario from his goal
again.
A little passive aggressive nod from R&D1.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? It's in Wario Land. Wario could have had it all, but Mario took it right under his nose. That's what's happening here again.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that at the end of Wario Land 1, he discovers a giant golden statue of Princess Peach, which Mario then proceeds to choplifter away.
Yeah.
He waves hello and takes off with it.
What a bastard.
Wario.
We've been looking for this giant gold statue of Princess Peach. So did Princess Peach make a giant gold statue or have it commissioned to be made in her image? And then these pirates, the syrup pirates, stole it at a later time?
Maybe it was a gift from Sarasaland.
Ooh, I like that. Because the syrup pirates surely did not make a giant gold statue of Princess Peach.
No, why would
they?
It doesn't belong to them. They stole it. They're pirates.
No,
They're pirates.
Captain Syrup is a big fan of Princess Peach.
So they took all their booty over the last few years and created a giant gold statue of Princess Peach with it.
You know, I don't even think we mentioned that Wario Land, the protagonist of that game is Captain Syrup,
or the antagonist,
and her pirate gang.
Right, first appearance of Captain Syrup and her weird duckish pirate gang.
And then Wario Land and Virtual Boy is a completely different cast of enemies.
Right, nothing to do with anything. I don't even know who the main. It's just some demon thing, right?
Yeah, some demon guy.
Some demon god in some cave in the Amazon.
I don't even think the instruction manual says who it is, so...
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. No.
Yeah. Yeah, doesn't it? It's just like Wario saw these guys going behind a waterfall, and he was like, "Oh, there's treasure."
Yeah, they had treasure, so he wanted to get it. And then he falls in a hole, and he's got to make his way back up. Luckily, there's elevators to help him with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really. Weird shopkeeper gophers.
Are those gophers?
Gophers, beavers, something like that.
I thought they were... Okay, maybe it's kind of gopher-beaver hybrid, because I thought they were the same type of animal that squirts water on him at the beginning.
Yeah, isn't it?
And that's a beaver, because, spoilers, he's going to take that plane and make a dam out of it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that's a beaver. And then, in between levels, at the end of a level, you need to find the key in the level to unlock the elevator. And then the elevator will take you to the bonus room area, where there will be a beaver or a gopher, or whatever he might be, who's eating snacks and watching television, just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice touch again.
Yeah. It's like he's an innkeeper or something. There's a little, sign-in sheet. No, it's a bell. There's a little bell to ring if he's not there.
Right, yeah.
Of course, if he's not there, he just skips it. But it is a nice, tiny little touch to this little scene.
It's great, too, because if he's not there and you go into one of the mini-games, when you beat the level, you can go into either a heart mini-game to get extra lives or a coin mini-game to try and get a multiplier of how many coins you got in that last stage. But if the beaver is not at his desk watching TV eating snacks, when you go into one of those games, he's in there sweeping the floor. And when he sees you, he freaks out and he runs out of the room.
Yeah, that
was
such
a great touch.
Yeah, just lots of just little details everywhere that make this game kind of come alive and just be gorgeous. A gorgeous little game, honestly.
So I think that's something that we should touch upon between both Wario Land and Virtual Boy Wario Land is the general structure of these games. Where Virtual Boy Wario Land is a very linear structure. You go from one level to the next level. There's an elevator at the end of each stage. You're basically zigzagging back and forth.
Right. First level is left to right. Next level is right to left. So you're alternating between two different elevators.
Exactly. So you're constantly zigzagging up this underground tower, for lack of a better term, and you're collecting treasure in each stage. Where in the original Wario Land, there's a total of like 40 some odd stages in that game.
I think it is almost exactly 40.
I think it is 40, yeah. And there's only like 16 treasures. So where Virtual Boy Wario Land has a treasure hidden in each stage, with the original Wario Land, they're kind of sporadic throughout these 40 stages.
Maybe like a couple per world or something.
I don't think there's really a set number.
Maybe not even, right?
Yeah.
And it's the overworld map is set up in a Mario World style overworld map.
So, I mean, it's very easy in the Game Boy Wario Land to go back to stages, even though there's really no indication on the map of there being a treasure in a stage. You basically have to keep an eye open for either finding a key or finding a lock that you put the key into.
Yeah, the stage marker. I think the stage marker is different to let you know that there are multiple exits.
Yeah, that's it.
But I don't think there's anything that. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that denotes that there's a treasure though.
When I beat the game, they were flashing. The 2 stages of Mr. Flashing.
Okay.
So maybe I don't know if that's only after you beat it, because I don't remember it before I beat the game.
No,
yeah,
definitely
that's after.
Not.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't know that.
That's a big arrow that's like, here, idiot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Being the gaming god that I am, I didn't notice that. So, okay, so at least they give you some kind of indication to let you know that you missed a treasure here. Come back and look for it, which is cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
But yeah, so Virtual Boy Wario Land it's a very linear progression through the game, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. Where if you do miss a treasure, let's say in the second world, and you're on the 8th world, you have to backtrack through every stage to get back to that second world.
And there's a bit of zigzagging in it's not just a straight line left to right or right to left. They start having multiple levels. One of the main aspects of Virtual Boy Wario Land is that there's a foreground and there's a background. And they're not even springs. Well, they're just jumping platforms like with arrows
pads.
On them. Yeah. Jump pads, right, that will launch you into the background. And as far as I know, this is one of the first games that's ever done that. I can't really think of too many platformers that did that before this.
It's the only one I can think of. I mean, not until, what was it, Mutant Muds?
Yeah, Mutant
Years
Muds
and years later did it. But
there's got to be more examples of this mechanic, but the first one I can remember is Virtual Boy Wario Land. And you jump into the background, there's things to collect back there. Sometimes the jump pad is hidden, you'll have to break a block to reveal it. But you see there's stuff in the background, you can get there. So you kind of look for it. And
well, that's one thing too, is between jumping into the foreground and background, Virtual Boy Wario, it's focused much more on exploration. And there's no bottomless pits that I found in the game. Like, if you see a hole in the ground, that's a hole for you to go into and explore.
That was really cool.
I did that I found that out by accident, because there's one part with conveyor belts where it's kind of easy to fall through the holes.
Oh,
and they actually lead you to places. Yeah, the watermelon part, right? They lead you to places where you need to go. Just extra treasure, some more stuff, and you're like, wow.
Right. No, there was one area that I didn't realize in the Haunted Mansion stage, where there's like a jar that has fire on it, and you can break it with the fire power-up. And there's this whole area underneath there that I had never seen before. In the multiple times that I played this. Nice. I mean, for this show, I played this game like 5 times through, and I didn't find this area until my last playthrough of it. I mean, it's huge. It's like, nothing but a shit ton of coins, but it's still huge down there.
I felt like I found a lot more this time playing than I did, 20 years ago, the first time. But yeah, I just remember that, like, seeing a hole in the floor and going, oh, is that a pit? And going into it, and it wasn't. It was just a new area. And even that made a big impression on me as, like, when I was, a baby. A little kid.
Your parents were irresponsible. Babies should not use a Virtual Boy.
Children under 7. No, I was, 15 or 16?
Okay.
Going back to the power-ups of Virtual Boy Wario Land.
They're different.
They're different than the Game Boy Wario Land. So you still have the Bull Wario, even though he can't stick to the roof anymore.
He can't stick to the ceiling anymore. Why would they take that away? That was such a cool thing.
I miss it, but there's really no point that you need it in this game. But
they could have been.
It could have been. They could have put something.
They could have done it. Yeah.
Then you have the fire power-up, which works pretty much the same way as it did in the Game Boy game.
You have more control over it now.
You have more control. It's not as annoying in this one.
Like, it starts when you hold down the button, and it stops when you let go of the button. It's not like an automatic thing that you have to wait for.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's way better.
Sea Dragon. Sea Dragon.
And then you have the eagle that you find, which lets you go ahead and fly and dash in the air. And also, if you double-tap jump, it lets you fly. And then they have a cool little thing where if you have either the eagle or the fire-breathing hat, and you get the other one, it turns into the King Dragon hat, which is every ability in the game wrapped into one power-up.
Right, we didn't mention that the bull has the butt stomp, but the other ones don't have the butt stomp. They have a belly flop that doesn't shake the ground, and it doesn't reveal secrets below
it's useless.
You. Right, so the King Dragon one lets you shoot, like you don't have a flamethrower anymore, you actually shoot flames that I believe they go through walls. They just go right across the screen. Yeah, they're gone.
Well, the normal flame doesn't go through walls.
Right.
So this one does.
And you can do the air. Can you do the air flying thing?
Yeah,
you can fly through the air. You can butt stomp and make everything shake. You got it all.
Right. And it's cool the first time you see it. And then you get to a point where every time you see a fire or an eagle hat, you know there's going to be the other one right next to it.
They should have just made it its own power-up. Like, it's cool that they combine to form the Megazord, but they could have just made it its own power-up at that point, because that happens all the freaking time by the end.
Yeah. And you're right. It's just like if you see one, the other's got to be close by every time.
Yeah, so the hats were different. Jumping was different. Took away the bull thing. Is there anything else you can think of that was a drastic change from the original Wario Land to this?
Besides the level structure and the power-ups and the running, that's pretty much... Oh, you know what? Also, too, where the original Wario, the whole goal is to get as many coins as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, it's more about getting all the treasures and trying to beat the game as fast as possible.
Right. There's one treasure per level, because there are only 10 levels. And if you don't get all the treasures, you can't open the vault at the end of the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, the vault doesn't open. And then, I looked this up on YouTube because I don't suck. I couldn't bring myself to do it. But, like, the vault doesn't open, and then you go back to your plane, dejected, with the money you've collected. At least you have that. And then you find that the stupid beaver has turned your plane into a dam. And now you convert that money you collected into a means to get home. So if you have, like, no money, then Wario... Like, I think you give the money to the beaver.
You do,
who
yeah.
then
You
procures...
buy a vehicle from them, right.
Yeah, you buy a vehicle from them, right. So if you have little to no money, he'll give you 2 fans. Like I'm hot, let me fan myself fans, right? And he holds it in each hand, and he kind of flaps like a bird, and he flies away. That's the worst. That's the worst option. The next level up is like a weird bicycle, zeppelin, blimp hybrid, where he pedals his way out. And then the next option after that, the beaver leads you to some kind of flying dragon creature that you fly out of there.
Wow, I didn't even know about all these.
Yeah, and then the very best one, if you have 50,000 to 99,999 coins, you get a remote-controlled rocket ship. And you're sitting on the rocket ship with the remote control in your hand, flying away. And that's a good ending. Still not the best ending, though.
So if you get all the treasures, there's 2 endings that are depicted based on how quickly you beat the game. So you can either go ahead and get a magic carpet and a genie bottle and fly away on that, or if you beat it in, under 2 hours?
If you beat it in under 2 hours, Wario takes off his costume and reveals he was a woman the whole time.
We never knew, Wario.
Wario's in a bikini, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. That's better.
So if you beat the game in under 2 hours, Wario is on the flying carpet with a Playboy bunny girl fanning herself.
Because women are possessions and rewards and treasures, obviously.
And that's the best ending, complete with fireworks and fancy 3D effects.
I know very few people have played this game, and emulators for it are kind of a pain in the ass to run a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't have that much of a problem.
You really miss a lot when you don't get the 3D also.
Yeah.
Like I was playing it on Wii, and it was like, well, this really is missing a lot from the 3D effect. But yeah, I was just playing it in 2D.
Yeah, Nintendo should find a way to put this on the 3DS. It can't be. It's not impossible, right?
Yeah, people have done it.
Of course not.
I mean, this is emulated on so many hacky things that it should be possible to bring to the 3DS and use the 3DS effect, the 3D effects, to replicate what was going on in the original. It would. I don't think it would be that difficult to do. I don't know if they're going to do it. It would it's a risk because nobody has really played this game, so they don't know if it's successful or not.
Yeah.
Enough to warrant.
If M2 can recreate Fantasy Zone 2 on arcade hardware...
If those assholes could put up something garbage like fucking Altered Beast, right?
Right.
Yeah.
In
3D. Right.
Then you can do one of the best Wario games ever made. Just gorgeous little game. It would be... Can you imagine how sharp and amazing it would look on the 3DS screen?
Oh,
like, you played Sonic on the 3DS screen, right? It looks gorgeous. Yeah. Can you imagine?
Hire M2, tell them to go at it. They can do it.
Let's do a Kickstarter.
Well, the Virtual Boy has that weird mechanical element of the spinning mirrors, so I don't know. Yeah, they're pretty much just gonna have to redo the whole game again, aren't they?
But if they can emulate it on the PC, right? You said you're playing your Wii. Yeah. You know, you then attach spinning mirrors to your Wii.
I did though. Mirrors, yeah. put spinning mirrors inside of my television, actually.
Yeah, but there was no reason that M2 or somebody who like M2 couldn't go ahead and create.
Well, the reason is they're not sure
this.
they will make money out of the endeavor. That's the reason. But they should, because it needs to live on. People should continue to play it. And on the 3DS, it would not only be playable, but it would replicate what made it so amazing, which is that parallax 3D effect.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe, though, that an entry in the Wario Land series, an entry basically in the Mario series, wouldn't get people to spend $6 on a downloadable version of this.
They could make their monay back.
They would make their money back. How much could it really be to port it? You know, even if you just do a bare bones, red on black port to the 3DS, I can't imagine that this would not make it, at least its money back. It has to.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's a lot of things Nintendo doesn't do.
That's true.
So, how do you guys feel? Would you guys recommend Virtual Boy Wario Land to people out there?
Yeah, I would. I think it's great. I think it's a good game.
It is a good game. You're right.
Absolutely,
it's excellent. Yeah, it's an entry in the Wario series. You gotta play it. It was Yokoi's last Wario game too. The last Wario game to have Yokoi involved in development.
Really, it might be one of the last games that he worked on at Nintendo. Period, isn't it?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if that was one of his last games. I mean, it definitely is one of his last games. I don't know if it's his last game.
Last game was probably Galactic Pinball. He just phoned it in. Yeah.
It's Dragon Hopper. Dragon Hopper, the one we never got.
Put that on 3DS as well.
No, that's not coming out. Yeah, bring out Dragon Hopper. No one knows what I'm talking about.
Nope, no one cares.
Look it up.
No, Dragon Hopper. It's the Mother 3 of Virtual Boy. It's the Mega Man Legends 3 of Virtual Boy.
Mega Man Legends 3 of Virtual Boy.
Yeah, but Wario Land on Virtual Boy is definitely worth playing. And if you can get yourself a Virtual Boy, it's definitely worth playing it on the real hardware. Yeah. If you can't, well, look for other means, but you definitely should be played.
Yeah, I think everybody should experience Wario Land on the Virtual Boy. Like you said, real hardware would be best, but I understand why that's prohibitive. If you have to emulate it, go right ahead. You have my permission. Tell them I sent you.
Yeah, and the original Wario is definitely worth playing. So, which game between these two did you guys enjoy more?
It's a tough choice.
That's a tough choice. I say I enjoy Virtual Boy Wario Land more. It was more of a... It felt like a refinement, let's say, in that original formula to a point of almost near perfection. Even though it's so short, like the first time you play through it, it will take you maybe like 2.5 hours or so if you're really looking for treasures. If you know what you're doing and you're speeding along, easily under 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very short game. There is a New Game Plus, which is slightly more difficult. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that.
When you beat Virtual Boy Wario Land with all of the treasures, the save screen replaces a bat that normally hangs over the door with what stage you're currently on with two either fairies or angels.
I think they're angels.
I think they're angels.
I don't know why.
I read that they were fairies, but I think they're angels. So they replace it with two angels that are hanging over the door, and what they do is basically add spikes all over these levels, while also making the enemies more aggressive and the bosses noticeably more aggressive.
Well, not the angels, probably the game designers.
They're two tiny Gunpei Yokois with wings.
Sprinkling spikes along the level.
Yeah.
It's playing that little song. What's the name of that song? From Fantasia? And the fairies are dancing around. You know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
The winter thing.
I have no idea. Is it Sugar Plum Fairies or something?
Yes, the dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. More spikes. More spikes.
So, the enemies become more aggressive, and the bosses get new attack patterns. Some of the bosses get new attacks. They kind of ramp it up. I mean, I only died a few times playing it on normal. Playing it on hard, I was dying all the time and kind of getting pissed off at the game. The first boss took me quite a while to go ahead and figure out what exactly I needed to do to avoid his attack, because he was so quick about throwing his spike to the front of the screen. And at least the final boss has a new attack that I noticed. So
really,
wow, yeah. I did not make it that far. I did not make it. I made it like 1.2% of the way through.
Yeah, it's
like
really
I made it once through, and then I got stuck. I didn't get stuck, but I stopped playing about 3 or 4 stages in, because it's just the same, just with spikes. Not saying that's bad. They kind of had to, because the game is so short. So I understand why they added a second quest of sorts, but I didn't really feel a huge incentive to plow through it.
Oh, you're not a super player.
No.
I'm not. I want to be, though. I mean, I
For
might do it
shame.
eventually, just maybe not twice in a row, you know? Too bad the Virtual Boy's back in the closet forever.
What was this new attack?
The new attack was he lifts his hands up and he starts like wiggling his fingers, and spikes fall out of his hand.
Oh, weird.
Wow.
So you have like this,
Oh my god.
all these bouncing spikes that are on the screen
Look at
that you need to try and avoid.
Wait, is that Yokoi himself?
It's practically a little Yokoi fairy, just sprinkling spikes everywhere. Huh.
Yeah, that's it. It's Yokoi.
Yeah, I think Mario Land did the same thing, right? Because it was also a very short game.
Well, it
It
had,
had
a
a
hard
slightly more
mode.
challenging second quest.
Yeah,
It didn't throw
the first
spikes
one did.
everywhere, but
No.
yeah. But yeah, there was like a harder mode in it.
They wanted to put spikes in it, but then Miyamoto like poked his head in the door.
Is it better not put spikes in
He
it?
was just like shaking his head left and right, staring him down. Oh.
Yokoi was very sad. He grimaced.
He saved all his spikes for Wario Land.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna put him in another game. I'll show you.
It's a shame that the Game Boy Wario Land didn't have a hard mode in it.
Yeah.
Like I was
Well,
kind of
that
hoping
was
it
a
did.
significant game.
It was. I mean, there's definitely
was
enough
pretty
meat
long.
on that bone to go ahead and chew on it for a while.
Yeah, I was done. I mean, I was ready to get out of Wario Land by the end. I was like, it was a good length. I had done
Yeah.
enough.
I
It
was
might
ready
have
to play it again, but
Yeah, I'd say that too. Like, Wario Land Virtual Boy is short, but it felt right. Like by the end, and Wario Land Game Boy felt like it was just a little bit too long.
Maybe a bit.
Yeah, I mean, just like maybe take a stage out of every world or whatever part of the map he was on.
no,
So yeah.
Game Boy
I don't
Wario Land's
know.
perfect.
So both of today's games come highly recommended by all of us. I think we all agree that
Yeah.
these two games should be played, should be owned if you want to go that far.
Well, especially the Game Boy Wario Land. Like you can buy the Game Boy Wario Land on Virtual Console for the 3DS. It's
Yeah.
like $4. Like there's no reason not to own that game.
True.
I'm sure you could find the cartridge for like the same price
You
too, or
probably
cheaper.
could.
Look outside. Just look around your driveway. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
some kid dropped it in the street.
there. Just play it. It's good.
Yeah, we should touch on the music too. Like,
Oh,
remember
absolutely.
how we thought? I don't think we thought the music in Mario Land 2 was that great. And in Mario Land, it comes in and it comes with all these. I don't know what all the effects are, but they're coming back, pushing the Game Boy's sound chip to its
Yeah.
fullest again.
So who did the sound work in Game Boy Wario Land?
Oh
Was it Kazumi Totaka?
no, it wasn't Totaka. It
See,
was.
because
let's
he
see.
did Mario Land 2 that we talked about how
Yeah.
how lacking that soundtrack felt, especially for somebody who we actually like Totaka.
Phoned it in.
Yeah, definitely did. And then, but he went on to do the Virtual Boy soundtrack.
Yeah, he did the Virtual Boy soundtrack, and it sounded so much better. It
Yeah.
was. I guess
Virtual
maybe
Boy
it's just,
soundtrack is magnificent.
yeah. Maybe he was just more appropriate. It was just more appropriate for him to do a soundtrack to Wario instead of Mario. Maybe he was along with him. He's like, "Yeah, we hate this guy. Let's just kind of phone it in, do a half-assed job on Mario Land too." Totako's like, "I'm there."
All right, so yeah, so it looks like two people worked on the Wario Land 3 soundtrack. The first one, Ryoji Yoshitomi. Let me go back and look. Yeah, the first one, Ryoji Yoshitomi, is gonna go on to do. He worked on Metroid 2, and he will go on to do Wario 4 as well as WarioWare. So we know that he is amazing at what he does. And the other guy, Kozu Ishikawa, I actually have not heard of. He
Yeah,
seems to
Kozu-
have worked on some random things at Nintendo here and there.
Link's
Mario
Awakening.
Tennis, yeah, Link's Awakening DX. I mean, sound composition, not really. He wasn't really in charge of the soundtrack or anything. He was a composer for Super Mario Land 3.
It says composer on well, it says sound composer. I don't know what that means.
One of the lesser known sound guys at Nintendo, I guess.
Yeah,
Lesser known by us.
That's another thing. It's kind of if you go through like all these credits for video games, you find all these people who work at Nintendo, and you don't know if they still work there or not because they're just kind of. It seems like there's years between jobs that they're working on, and
Right.
sometimes they're just like special thanks. It's like, are they still there or not? Who knows?
Did they come by one day with donuts?
Yeah, they just stop by.
Yeah, and we know that Totaka worked on Mario Land 2 as well as Wario Land because his secret song is in both of those games.
Yeah, did you guys
Yes.
get Totaka's song at the end of
I
Wario
did.
Land Virtual Boy?
I didn't notice it. No.
I did it in Virtual Boy Wario Land. I didn't do it in Mario Land 2 because I forgot, but I did do it in Virtual Boy Wario Land.
Yeah, you had to sit there for a second.
We'll
For
we'll
like a
splice
minute
that in
and a
here
half.
somewhere maybe if we find it.
I'm sure you can find it.
I'm sure I can.
Alright, we'll do the real one, not the Finch version.
We can all sing it.
It's also he also hid the song inside Finch. If Finch stands still for about 2 minutes, it'll just start playing.
It just comes out of him. You don't know where it's coming from, but it's
You're not
somewhere.
moving your lips.
I can't stop it.
So that's the episode for this week. I think we covered these two games pretty well. I was your host, Mauricio, also known as MZO Mizzo online.
I'm Finchy Kenzie.
Oh my god, stop. You know what? We're doing this again.
I'm Captain Syrup.
And I'm Nick, also known as Geen.
In 2 weeks, we're going to be moving away from Nintendo, trying to give some love to the other consoles out there. And I want to leave you with this question. Can you sense a spillet second?
It's a good one.
We'll find out.
Can you?
What, Finch, what are you doing? Get out of here.
Nothing.
You're
I'm not doing anything.
You're messing with my notes in real time. Look at you. There's no dog hat. Erase that.